one random thought, just to finish this
Mhm.
point from my perspective, is that like you could change it by changing the incentives instead. Because why do the spawn points matter so much at the moment? Was because being first matters.
Right. That's true.
And if they fixed things like the static loot spawns, then that might go
Yes.
some way to help, because then people wouldn't care as much. People might want to choose different spawn points. You know, if you gave them the option, then they wouldn't just be like closest to resort every time. You know, I don't know, something along those lines. Anyway, I'm sure that they've got some ideas, but it's
Mhm.
it's a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a
I
pain.
think they would have to, like I think the problem is just inherent to the game mode, so to speak, 'cause
Mm,
it's kinda like Counter I think it was like Counter-Strike in a way.
yeah,
Like, it's very, like, static. If they can perhaps change the game mode to more open world-ish, more dynamic, more like, the loot spawns or you like come and go out of certain maps,
yeah,
I don't know. They'd have to, like,
exactly.
completely redesign the
Exactly. Like,
system,
yeah, and
so
it's kind of like a more like DayZ kind of thing, right? The world
exactly,
is like
yeah.
semi-permanent, and you're
Mhm.
coming and going from raids. Someone might be at the end of their raid, but you're just at the beginning. But loot spawns, like loot refreshes between every 30 minutes to 1 hour, and you don't know
Mhm.
when, like that kind of thing, right? Or it might not be
Yeah.
there at all when you spawn in, and then like 30 minutes later it's going to be there. You just have to keep checking various places, but it's not just like, if you rush there right at the beginning of the raid, there's no guarantee that it's going to be there at all, because someone might have already done it in a previous raid. I don't know, something like that, because that would kind of fix
Something
it.
like
Because then,
that.
yeah, then
Yeah.
you wouldn't need everybody to spawn in simultaneously.
Welcome to ScavTalk, an Escape from Tarkov podcast with a focus on the continuing development of the game, patch notes analysis, theory crafting, and general gameplay discussions. I'm one of your hosts, Church,
And I'm your other host, GigaBeef.
and welcome to the show. So, jumping right into it, you
Yes,
saw the Reddit post, I assume, that Nikita put out.
yes, I think this is a good place to start.
Yes.
The Nikita posts are always kind of gold dust in terms of, the mapping and pathway. They're really the only thing we get right, in terms
Yeah.
of like what they're doing and where they're going. Because I know people talk about having some kind of like roadmap, but these really are it, right? You have to click on "You Train Fender" on Reddit and look through his posts. It's genuinely the best way.
I'm
Oh,
so
you're
sorry.
you're
Yeah. It it froze on me because someone's calling my phone and it crashes the I forgot to turn on do not disturb mode, otherwise telemarketers
whoops.
will constantly call me, yeah.
Anyway, while you fix that, um, it is good when he posts something, just because
Yeah.
we get we get a bit of, a look behind the curtain. So, I mean, if we just like read a few bits from what he said here. So, what was he said? What have we done? Held a lot of increased player counts after New Year events. Did a lot of stabilizing tasks on the back end to prevent excessive failures. So, increasing player counts, I think that's something that they said they were doing on Woods in the first place, where it was going to be quite low player counts to begin with, and then they were upping it. So that's quite interesting to see that they're, trying to push as many people into the server as possible. As a complete random aside, that might actually be why there's not as many scavs on the map. But anyway, um,
On
banned
Woods?
banned a lot of cheaters. Banned texture hack files. I did actually hear about this from someone else. You can make things invisible.
Mhm.
Balancing changes, economy changes, weapon changes. I mean, we know about a lot of these, and decreasing camera recall, which I guess we can speak about a bit later. Um, Test the fuel shortage scenario. Got lots of info for dynamic economy events, automatization. Overall, got huge feedback, everything related to the game, which helps us do further planning. I mean, it's very positive, right? It's very positive. I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, the what when I was reading this, that second note really stuck out to me because I think I remember hearing from, um, Veritas when he did that video where he interviewed the hacker. I don't know if you
Mm,
remember that,
yeah,
or if you even saw it,
yeah.
but,
It was a good one.
I'm pretty sure they were saying that because they didn't, like, sign, like, I forget the technical term, But someone else, I want to say it was One Peg. I want to give him credit where credit's due. He basically got information that what they would do is they would they would modify the game files to like basically draw, make the characters really bright, really pop out, or draw like their skeleton through walls and stuff.
Right.
But they would have it where it would match the file size.
Oh, I
So
see.
then the anti cheat would just, or whatever the game anti cheat would just check for the same file size, and that's kind of how they got past it. And apparently, that's been in the game for a very long time. So
Interesting.
they've um,
Interesting. Is
solved
that
that
just
issue.
like the texture hack one? Because I went on I was on someone's
Hmm.
stream the other day and they were talking about this, and I think someone else in
Hmm.
chat, there was actually another streamer in their chat saying, "Oh, I think it's fixed actually." Because otherwise you could basically just do like supposedly you could just do wall hacks by changing your game files locally, which I think is kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds about the same. It
which
sounds
is
like it's one of those
yeah,
things that was it just became more and more popular, and I guess it's just gotten to their radar now. I'm not too sure, but
yeah,
glad
exactly.
it's fixed. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. So the increased player count thing.
mhm.
I guess like yeah, I guess that's just about like having tons of people come back into the game as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that does mean per server. I kind of immediately read that as within a particular server they're kind of
Me
maxing out
too.
the player caps.
I thought it was New York, but then I realized it was New Year's event.
I read it out as New York on the
Yeah,
first pass
same.
just because it's like just comes straight naturally off the tongue.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know because the reason why I thought that was because originally they said, okay, Woods, we're going to have, however many people are going to be on it. It's like 11 or something on the new
Mhm.
Woods, even though it's twice the size. And then we're going to slowly increase it higher and higher to where it should be over time because we want people to be able to explore the map and not just be like tripping over each other the whole time like they are on every other map, spawn killing um,
Yeah.
and all of that stuff. So that's kind of what I thought they meant. But on second read, I actually think that probably means just like overall player numbers and them just getting mobbed. To be fair, like this wipe has been really good for that. Like
Been
the
really
launch day
good.
was great, and there's
Yeah.
been some issues, but compared to other wipes, it's been very smooth. Honestly, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned, it's been very smooth.
Yeah.
There's only been a
Absolutely.
couple of times when people can't play and stuff.
Yeah. There Yeah, a ton of people have praised them for this being one of the smoothest wipe, and, you've been playing longer than I have, so you can definitely attest to that, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I mean, I've not been playing for I'm not a dinosaur of Tarkov, but been playing long enough to have you come and sit down to play and then it's like 3 hours later you still can't and that kind of thing, which is, I mean, it's frustrating, right? Especially if you've got like windowed slots where you say, okay, well, I'm going to play from here to here, and you've got other things going on, and then you try to, and then the servers go down literally as you sit down at the PC, and you're
Yeah.
like, well, okay. So I'm glad that a lot of that is fixed. So yeah, they did a lot of balancing changes. I mean, we talked somewhat about economy and weapons mods and things like that last time. And they said, yeah, decreased camera recall. What do you think about it? Have you played a lot with it so far?
As soon as I read that, I was like, "Oh," and then I saw some videos and some Reddit posts about it, and I went and tested it, and I could, like, my AK-103 build, like, it felt like the old A meta AK build. Like, it's because it's all just a if I understand it correctly, it's just a visual. Because you have to think about it, you have, like, your gun recoil, right, that kicks up, but then
Yeah.
you have this camera recoil, which is, like, your actual, um, player model, like, your view model, your first person model is actually kicking up with it,
Hmm.
and it can throw a lot of people off because it's like your center of your screen, like where your reticle is, actually like moves up, I think. Yeah, or down. I can't remember. But it's really
Well,
weird to get used to.
it is weird. It is weird. And I think like what's supposed to happen is that the screen is supposed to kind of move up with the weapon, but not more than, because otherwise it's strange. And I think that's why people were finding it very confusing because the
I can see
screen was
that.
moving like more. I think it was like there were certain guns that it was really bad for, the Saiga being one of them, the Saiga 12. where the more
Yeah.
you shot, the higher your screen went, but the gun stopped moving, and so your gun would just like disappear off the bottom of the screen, kind of thing, which was just really really odd. So I think it's good. I think it is good. It does make it more controllable because the screen's not jumping around as much.
Right.
I don't think, I think it's one of those things that it's nice, and people will stop complaining about the Saiga, and then everyone just kind of forget about it, and it'll just go back to the way it was. I think it's an interesting one because I don't think it doesn't change the actual recoil of the weapons, just
Right.
the perceived sort of difficulty of controlling them because of how hard it was to figure out with the camera. The honest truth for me, I actually don't think it's made a huge difference
Not a huge
to me.
difference.
Not
I
a huge
mean,
difference, but I think
I
it probably helps at the lower end of the budget spectrum. Like
that's
stock
probably really
AKMs and
true.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's probably really true.
So I
Apparently
think,
the Go ahead.
I just think it's quite a good balancing thing. Right, it doesn't really affect the the guys at the end game, but it helps kind of the people who are new a bit more.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
What were you going to say?
Nothing.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Yeah, so the next one, testing the fuel shortage scenario. It's interesting to see that there was actually specific reason for that to try and figure out how it works. And I think it was good for them to do. We did talk about it quite a lot last time, but I'm glad they got a decent amount of test information for, as they say, the dynamic economy and events
Yeah,
that
but
they can automate.
what is that what Optimus? Because like I don't know, because that didn't really feel automated. Like,
No,
are
but
they
I think they need to test to see like how
how it's
a
gonna affect the
shock
market?
affects the system. Yeah. And then they could say, okay, given that this response, then we can, try to put something in place that happens automatically. Because I think that's the thing they wouldn't want to do is just like, they go, oh, we're going to slash the rates of fuel in game, but they only slash it by 25% or something and nothing really happens. Or they go, oh, we're going to slash the rates of fuel and they slash it down to like 2%. And then like the game blows up and fuel cans are 1,000,000 rubles. I don't know.
See, I almost assumed that was a change to sort of nerf the Bitcoin farm. I mean, obviously it affects everyone even if you don't have a Bitcoin farm, but that was my assumption. But I guess that's not the case what
Yeah,
they're saying here.
exactly. I think there's a lot of people who thought that, and me too, because you know, Bitcoins it started to come back down again to like 460, 450 or whatever, and then Elon tweeted today, and now it's back above 500,000 rubles in game, which is quite funny that you have these real world events. Bitcoin jumps for I think it was 31k. It was like down to 31k or something, and now it's back up to like
Hmm.
36, 37. And so I was like, oh, sell the Bitcoins now after that tweet, which is pretty entertaining. But yeah, no, it seems like it was kind of unrelated to that. That's actually, as a kind of aside, there was a comment made on the community podcast about that and about the price of Bitcoin
Hmm.
and about whether players who slammed through and got to full Bitcoin farm already should really be reaping in just like 1.5 million rubles a day for not doing anything. Um, I mean, I could kind of see the argument both ways. It was like, well, the players who are doing that typically aren't relying on it anyway to make money, so it doesn't really matter. But in the same way, 1.5 million ruble tailwind is actually quite significant.
Yeah, I mean that's easily depending on how much you spend or how many traders you have unlocked. That's easily like 4 kits, maybe
Yeah,
more.
and that's the thing. It kind of just is that cushion, right? Where even if your raids aren't actually
Right.
profitable, you don't lose money anyway because you just got this extra buffer. Because
And it's
even
just
if
gonna
you're
compound
exactly.
over time. I
Yeah,
mean,
even if you're only surviving 40% of the time or something, and coming out with 80% of the loot, so for your overall losing money, that 1.5 probably will make up for it in the long run. I know, it's interesting.
yeah.
Um, what else? Oh yeah, worked out general plans for the year. Fine. So that was kind of the first stuff that they were talking about in terms of what they've actually
Right.
done, which is cool. I don't know if you had any more comments on that before we just move on to what they said of what's being done right now.
Not really. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Well, let's have a look at it then. So 12.10 or 12.10 network fixes and optimization AI. A couple of medium features. I don't really know what that means. And more
Yeah.
detailed information in the next Tarkov TV live. So fine. It's just optimization. That's okay. Same thing with the next one. Network improvements. Blah blah. Different. Right. Working on this is one that intrigued me. Working on different network/netcode improvements to further reduce lags, desyncs, disconnects. Some of the changes may require ETS testing. Now, this to me, right? Working
Mhm.
on netcode improvements, right? That's fine. That's just normal. Working on different network as
Yeah.
a statement means, like, I don't know. Do you think maybe they're testing client authoritative
God, I hope so.
servers? Sorry, server authoritative game rather than client authoritative. I don't know.
That
I think they could be. I think they could be. That was the first thing when I read that. I was like, I wonder if they're changing the model underneath. That's why it needs to go to ETS.
that or they're converting their servers to a higher tick rate or more, uh, what's the word? I guess consistent or even
Hmm.
integer
Yeah,
tick rate.
it could be. It could be. I mean, either which way,
Who
no
knows?
matter which way it goes, I'm excited about it. It sounds
Yeah,
great. It sounds really
yeah.
good. I hope that they I hope they come to some kind of awesome conclusion and fix it and make it amazing. Can you imagine if it had the netcode
Even
of
if it's just like 10% improvement as far as like desync or delay on,
yeah,
because like it would just help so much, dude, so much.
exactly. Exactly. Um yeah, and then started to work on the pretty big list of audio/sound fixes. I mean, that's going to be going on forever, I think. It's going to take them a long time to fix that. Audio is quite difficult, but yeah, trying to put audio on stairs, that'd be nice. Be a nice start. um Moving to Unity 2019, that's going to be a big job for them. But again, it's not really much to actually comment on that. Continue to improve backend, working on the ballistic settings of all objects on locations, improving and fixing penetration, ricochet chance, and collecting ballistics colliders. That sounds pretty cool. To be able to have more, destructible terrain or not having just impenetrable wire fencing, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, but the other thing that I wonder is for I assume you know, but for those who don't know, there is a bug in the game with fragmentation, which fragmentation is when your bullet has a chance to like crit basically. Um if the bullet doesn't have higher than 20 pin or 21 pin, then it
Yeah,
can't even proc that fragmentation, even if it has a chance to proc it. Like it just won't work at all. So I wonder if when they say fixing penetration, if that at all relates to that. I don't know because that's been in the game
yeah,
for a very long time.
it has, and I wonder whether they want to fix it at this point. I don't know because I don't even know what that would mean for certain rounds. I mean, it would make certain
Right.
rounds
Yeah.
really crazy. And it's like something like a rip round. Like,
hmm
should that have a fragmentation value? Because it fragments by default. That's kind of like its
Right.
default stance. So I'm not sure. It sounds a bit strange that I would do like the idea of improving the actual ballistics with various materials though.
hmm
I
hmm
do think that's good. I remember reading somewhere where they were saying that they're even going to go down to the level of cars will be penetrable in different ways, and like the engine block won't be penetrable without the heaviest rounds or whatever. So you can like sit near the bonnet um, and you're going to be much more protected than if you're kind of like down in by the passenger door and the back in the back or something. I don't know whether they're going to
Yeah.
actually get to that level of detail or not. It sounds like a very nice to have thing in amongst all the other things that they want to get done. I don't really know.
Yeah. I think right now they have a very basic system in place because I noticed when you like try to like shoot a door or like a on shoreline inside a resort, there's like this cabinet near
Yeah,
East Wing, and it's like there's a part where it's just like literally just like a thin sheet of wood, and you shoot it, but your bullet will like just dart in random like a random cone, like it
yeah,
doesn't go straight through. So I wonder
yeah.
if maybe they're gonna do something with
And
that.
it's
I
even
don't
like
know.
the metal wall on gate 3. You can pen that with like high
Oh,
pen
really?
rounds.
I
Yeah,
didn't know
but
that.
only high pen rounds can go through. I
Huh.
can't remember if PS can go through, but BS 762 can. And again, it's got the same thing. So the bullets deviate out of it and lose
Yeah.
damage. But I don't know. I think it's quite simplistic at the moment, but we'll see. I don't know how much difference that will actually make. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure.
Mhm.
What about the factory expansion though, and the factory boss?
Thank God, dude. I love Factory, but I hate the spawn and forklift. That's the only thing that bugs me.
I wonder how they're going to do it. I wonder whether it's going to be a little bit of the outside of customs or something, and then the factory itself. Because like what I don't know, like I'm really torn on it because I don't know whether it would just be nice to keep it all indoors, or whether it would be better to have it kind of like in the raid series where you've got like kind of the
Yeah,
outside
yeah.
area, you have to like move in and blah blah. I don't know which would be better.
Well, I think what they're gonna do, because one of the Q&As they did on Twitter, or they posted on Twitter, was related to the map-to-map travel in
Hmm.
the future. And apparently you have to go to factory to labs to get to street.
Yes.
So they might have some type of lab entrance near factory or in factory. And maybe you have to use that extract to go to labs. I don't know.
Yeah, I did kind of wonder how that was even going to work because they said, "Oh yeah, factories to entrance to
Oh.
labs." I'm like, there must be some kind of like event that you trigger there because like labs is nowhere near factory. as
Yeah, it's
far
a
as far
long distance on
as
the
far as we
map.
could tell, right? And like unless labs is
Yeah.
somewhere, because everybody assumed that labs is in streets somewhere. I don't
Mhm.
think it's ever been stated that that's true. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't think it's ever been stated that that's true. Like maybe labs is in customs. Maybe labs is right next to a factory. Who knows?
Well, I
I
mean,
don't
if
really
you
know.
look at the map, like the in-game map, labs is like off to the left of streets, but it's like way up in the top left corner. It's just a kind of random building. Like just
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that mapping game. I'm not sure how
mhm.
if that's actually going to link
Reflect the
up properly.
final.
Yeah, because I actually did
Yeah.
like I did a stupid amount of research into this for
Mhm.
no real reason. It was actually when I was making like the story video kind of thing, and I was going
Yeah.
to do more stuff on the lore, and it was one avenue that I was investigating, and that map is actually the Contract Wars map, which is
Oh, really?
yeah,
Interesting.
which is interesting, and there's a bigger version that you can find, which is all in Russian. And but when you spend a bit of time looking at it, you can see that the map doesn't actually correspond completely to the maps in game. I don't think it didn't. I couldn't quite make it link up because it was obviously like a much
Hmm.
earlier edition of what they actually wanted to do. So things on shoreline are different. Like positioning of certain bits is different. Like woods just doesn't really fit at all. Like where
Mhm.
woods is, there's like a motorway that goes over the top, kind of thing on that map. If you look at it
Hmm.
closely, I was like, unless that's like been destroyed or something, but there's no way that that would actually fit at all. It just doesn't really work. So I kind of like disregard that map. I think that's probably old. They still use it in game, um, but I don't think that's going to be the end result. So I was like, fine, I'm just going to like ignore what it says here about labs because I don't think that's relevant anymore. But people always kind of like put it in streets, and I guess it kind of makes sense because you assume it probably is in like some kind of urban setting. You've got like an underground car park with like a fairly wide road coming out of it, right? So it probably is in the city center somewhere. Like it's unlikely to be in the customs area because that's like very sort of industrial and also quite, I guess, green in some ways. It's like factories rather than you know built up kind of metro. So I don't know. It's interesting, but then yeah, in that way, it's like how will factory be an entrance to labs unless it's like you have to go and get something and then that's like and then you're going to get magically teleported to labs because you're going to meet a dude and he's going to take you there. I don't know, like
Maybe there'll
without
be
some
like
kind of
some car extract or
yeah, like a car
something.
or something. Like without some event, I don't really see how it's possible. Or maybe there's like I don't know. Or can you imagine that like some kind of underground train or something? It's like a service train,
It'd be
like a
pretty
delivery
cool.
train.
I
That
mean,
would
I
kind of make sense too.
imagine they're gonna it would just be like you fill in the gaps in your imagination,
I think for
you
now,
know?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's how it's gonna
I
be.
think for now. So we'll see. Factory boss though. The only thing I don't know. You played Metal Gear Solid. The
No.
the first thing that pops into my head for anyone who's played Metal Gear is Vulcan Raven. Basically, just a huge fat man with a huge minigun. That's sort of like when I
I
think of
think I
like
know
a
what you're talking
factory
about, yeah.
boss. Like I just that idea just pops into my head. I don't. It just feels right. It just feels right.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's gonna be like. Can you imagine if there was a boss there at the moment with the size it is? It'd be insane. It would actually just be insane.
There's a, Reddit post a while ago, and it was like, "There should be a factory boss. It could be Michael Scott with a stapler gun."
Well, some people have said that the factory boss should be Nikita too.
Oh, that's funny.
Nikita with his 366 Vepper.
Hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. I think it's going to really depend on what they do with the factory expansion as to what feels right with that. Otherwise, it's just going to be a mess. I think it's just going to be a real mess. Like Factory's a mess anyway. Um,
Yeah.
but
Just
it'll
hope they
it'll
fix
be
the
good.
spawns, man. That just
Mm.
there's a bit of a tangent, but I was watching Summit 1G and he spawned on Shoreline, but he got like the most awful spawn.
Is it the
Like
swamp one?
no, the opposite corner, like by the
Okay.
train cart in the where that CCP temporary is at,
Oh yeah, that one.
like way back in the corner. And he was so mad because he's like, we didn't get the God spawn. The guy that got the God spawn, he's already in resort. He's running around with his hatchet looting everything. Meanwhile, I'm out here fighting PMCs with Untar armor and
Yeah.
AKs. So, and he's like, we're digging around and it's just like I don't know how they solve the spawn issues, but it's just man, like
Yeah,
that
it's pretty
that
rough.
spawn. There's like a couple spawns by resort that it's just like, man, if you get the spawn, you're just like uncontested.
Mm.
Like
What I
you
would
just run
like
in there.
is just completely change it. I don't know how you do it
Mhm.
yet, but I was like thinking of some kind of way in my mind that like you kind of like pick some like I don't know, you kind of like pick somewhere along the edge, and then it kind
It
of like shuffles you around or something. I don't really know. It's not like a fully formed idea yet, but I was like thinking of something like that where you kind of like you pick your sort of your starting location. I know you used to be able to do that because if you had
I was
the
gonna
in-game
say, didn't
map,
they have a system like that?
yeah, yeah, you used to be able to do that. Um, but like they'd need to make it so that some spawns weren't as good, or maybe I don't know, maybe even like give you some kind of disadvantage for being so. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure yet. But like the way it is right
It's
now is
hard.
it's way too rigid. I don't really like it. It's like chess openings, right? It's just like, oh, I spawn here, and so there's a guy there, and there's a guy here. I don't like
Yeah,
the fact that you have like perfect information as soon as you arrive. I think it
exactly.
sucks. I think it sucks.
A lot
And
of people
yeah, they should do something
like
about it.
scavs for that reason because
Mm,
it's like you have no idea you have zero information. You're just spawned at 32 minutes. Maybe you have like an idea of kind of what's happening with 32 minutes in this raid. I kind of like
yeah,
know it's if it was like 10 minutes left in the raid and like okay, it's mostly scavs.
yeah,
But
exactly. And it's kind of it
you have
goes
no
both
idea.
ways too. Yeah, it goes both ways because it's like
Uh-huh.
you don't know where anybody is, but at the same time, like they don't know you spawned either. They don't know where you've
It's
spawned, and
true.
so
Yeah.
you're kind of like, well, I can go and do whatever. Like people aren't just going to suddenly be like, like straight in at me.
Right.
Not at the beginning because it is annoying that it is annoying. People are going to know where everybody is, and they're going to rush the spawn point that is the most kind of vulnerable to your point because
Mhm.
some spawn points just have a big advantage on others. They just do. Like customs, if you don't want to run straight across to Krakow or whatever, and you spawn in that southeast big red one, and you could just kind of like camp under the train, like look
Yeah.
down the road or whatever. It's just like it's very difficult for someone who's in the trailer park spawn to do anything.
Yeah.
I think it's tough, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure how you fix it. Like, yeah, I think it would almost just be better if they just added like just a ton of spawn points, and they're all. Well, I guess like then it still really wouldn't work because it'd have to be contingent on each other. I was thinking like you have kind of like series of spawn points where everybody spawns like here, and then or it's like here, and everyone's like shifted, so you always spawn somewhere else, but then you kind of would still know the distance between you and the next guy. It's tricky. It's not easy. It's not easy. I guess like
That
one random thought, just to finish this
mhm.
point, from my perspective, is that like you could change it by changing the incentives instead. Because why do the spawn points matter so much at the moment? Was because being first matters.
Right. That's true.
And if they fixed things like the static loot spawns, then that might go
Yes.
some way to help. Because then people wouldn't care as much. People might want to choose different spawn points. If you gave them the option, then they wouldn't just be like closest to resort every time. I don't know, something along those lines. Anyway, I'm sure they've got some ideas, but it's
Mhm.
um it's a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a
I
pain.
think they would have to like I think the problem is just inherent to the game mode, so to speak, 'cause
Mm,
it's kinda like counter I think it was like Counter-Strike in a way.
yeah,
Like, it's very, like, static. If they can perhaps change the game mode to more open world-ish, more dynamic, more like, the loot spawns or you like come and go out of certain maps,
Yeah,
I don't know. They'd have to like
exactly.
completely redesign
Exactly.
the
Like,
system.
yeah, and
So
it's kind of like a more like DayZ kind of thing, right? The world
exactly,
is like
yeah.
semi-permanent, and you're
Hmm.
coming and going from raids. Someone might be at the end of their raid, but you're just at the beginning. But loot spawns, like loot refreshes between every 30 minutes to 1 hour, and you don't know
Hmm.
when, like that kind of thing, right? Or it might not be
Yeah.
there at all when you spawn in, and then like 30 minutes later it's going to be there. You just have to keep checking various places, but it's not just like, if you rush there right at the beginning of the raid, there's no guarantee that it's going to be there at all, because someone might have already done it in a previous raid. I don't know, something like that, because that would kind of fix
Something
it,
like
because then
that.
then
Yeah.
you wouldn't need everybody to spawn in simultaneously, um, and it would kind of break up the flow of the map a little bit and be a bit less,
Right.
as you say, static, right, a bit rigid, less
Hmm.
about kind of, right, let's do Tarkov 101 and bring up the map and then look at all the spawns and draw lines from all the spawns to all of the points, and like, and then you just like sit across various lines like that, and that's how you kill people at the beginning.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
make it a bit less like that, I think would be quite good. I think they could do it. But it's going to take a big game change, as you say, right? The game mode kind of inherently
Hmm.
pushes this type of play, because it's like, instance driven, raid driven, all the loot spawns right at the start, and
Right.
then everything resets and you go into another one and everyone spawns simultaneously. It's yeah, it's not ideal, but I can't imagine this is the way they want it forever, given they want open world and all this other stuff. So eventually, one day, soon.
TM. Soon TM.
Soon TM. Okay, so that was kind of factory expansion and factory boss. Then, right, numerous upcoming visual changes. Sounds nice. So it sounds
As
good.
long as it doesn't, hinder performance too much. Personally, I think the game looks great as is. So if they're by upcoming visual changes, if they mean like improving like fog distance or like things of that nature,
Mm,
um,
yeah.
I don't know, RTX maybe Pog ray tracing.
Oh my god, my computer would explode. I'm looking forward to that after getting a new PC, because right now my game looks kind of rubbish. But I
Hmm.
have to. I don't know about you, but I don't have anti-aliasing turned on, for example,
Ooh,
at
I
all,
do.
which is
Yeah, I
grim.
mean, for me, it's not a huge performance hit,
Yeah, maybe I'll
but
try it at
yeah.
some point. I don't know. I haven't touched my settings for a long time. Anyway, that's kind of a side point.
Hmm.
Working on the first iteration of Scav Karma.
I'm kind of nervous about this one. I gotta be honest.
I don't know how this is going to go at all.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is going to mean. I really don't. Like, you kill other scavs, and then the cult's going to come after you. I'm not. I'm not sure. Maybe AI scavs are just always going to be,
I would
permanently aggro against
imagine
you.
it's gonna be something like you kill scavs, you either get a longer timer on your scav, or your scav gets less and less gear. Like you start going down the tier list. I don't know.
Could
That's
be.
kind of
Yeah.
that'll
I was
spawn on the.
thinking like,
Hmm.
I was thinking like AI scavs would just automatically be hostile to you right from the outset, but I don't know how you'd
That
ever
would be
fix that.
pretty interesting. That
Yeah.
would be pretty
How
interesting.
would you ever fix that, right? It's like, oh, got to not kill some scavs, and you're like, yeah, but they're all shooting me on sight now.
Maybe like after you die a couple times and this guy's trust you again. I don't know.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but I think that'll be quite interesting. I think it was. It's funny also because they said about how they wanted to bring in karma system for everybody, and they're focusing on, okay, we're going to bring in the first iteration, scav karma just for scavs, to kind of, I assume, to prevent the whole scav versus scav killing situation. But eventually they want to have
Right.
PMC karma too, but because there's no real effect of having the factions at the moment, and you just really
Yes.
can't tell from a distance as to who's who,
Yes.
it would make it kind of impossible. So I'm kind of glad that they've fixed it just on scavs. You can
Yeah.
kind of tell, and it does make sense.
Yeah. I think they need more systems in place to bring on the full karma system. I
Yeah.
think the game needs to feel more open world, like, living than raid to raid for that to work.
Yeah, and some of the other NPC factions that they said they were going to talk about, like,
Hmm.
the UN, the Blue Helmets, and then Russian Army and stuff. Which I'd be excited for. That'd be super cool.
Yeah. Be cool.
That'd be cool.
One of the things that kind of bothers me with the current scav system, how it works is like, say you're scavving in whatever, and you see somebody, and now the AI is more complicated. They do a lot more random things.
Mm.
You kind of have to like really analyze them more. And then he shoots at you, and say he misses, but you shoot back and kill him. Then the scavs are aggroed on you
Yeah,
because that guy never hits you.
yeah,
It's
that is
just
true.
kind of like,
That's still true. Like, it's better than it used to be, but with the whole you get hit and then you kill them and then they're still okay with you, because that used to not be the case, and that was
hmm
rubbish, honestly. You'd win the firefight and then get gunned down by 4 other scavs anyway, which sucked. So it's better. It's better, but it's quite difficult to kind of I mean, it must be quite hard programmatically for them to detect, intent to kill, because it could
yeah,
happen randomly as well. So
it'd probably be too hard to
it's
even.
tricky, but maybe they'll do it
Yeah,
at some point. I don't know. I
we'll
can think
see.
of like some ways that you might want to do it. Proximity of shots to other
That's what I was
players, that
thinking,
kind
but
of
that's
thing.
probably so hard to like
Yeah,
calculate because they have to like take the player's vector and like have a certain parameter and
yeah. I
yeah.
think it wouldn't be too difficult to put something in place like that, but to have it so that it doesn't just like randomly, you're just like, "Whoa, what the hell?" Like, now I'm just getting shot by scabs because like you fired a bullet and it went across half of
Yeah.
customs as a collateral damage and went near another player's scab, and you're like, "Come on, dude, that's crazy." To have like not have those kind of things happen, I think is quite tough. That is quite tough.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's good. I think it's good. And then what else? They've started working on the first storyline quest, working on Streets of Tarkov, um, as they are doing storyline
Oh,
quest. I mean, yeah, I think it's good. What was that? What's that? You've had an idea.
inertia. Inertia
Yes,
model. Dude,
inertia.
I mean, Streets is great, storyline quest is great, but inertia model, I am super interested. I wish I was in ETS because I would love to try that out.
Yeah, me too.
I'm nervous. I'm interested. Yeah.
I think they just need to tweak up the inertia a bit on full changes of direction,
Well,
and they definitely
there
have the.
is none.
Yeah, there is none at all at the moment.
Yeah.
So they need
The
to
only
tweak it
thing,
so that it's. I don't want them to make. I don't want them to go crazy though. I
yeah,
don't want
I'm
them
a
to go
little
crazy
nervous. I mean, if they do go crazy, it would be interesting just because I've never played a game where it's like you feel really a first person shooter where you like feel your sluggishness of your character. Like I've never played that before. So it'd be interesting. I don't know if it'd be good. I probably wouldn't like it,
because if
but
you did you play PUBG?
no. But I've
Okay,
seen yeah.
PUBG never felt that bad when I played it back in the
Mhm.
day. I think probably because I came from DayZ before, which was kind of similar because that was based on
Oh,
armor,
okay.
and before that I was playing Dota, so I actually hadn't played any FPSs for a while.
Mhm.
And then, but going back, I played like a game or two of PUBG coming from Tarkov. Oh my god, it's like dragging like your player model is like a sack of potatoes, and it's like dragging this sack around to try and maneuver from place to place. Tarkov was
What
actually quite
in
freeing in
oh
comparison.
yeah,
PUBG
in
was just like, oh
PUBG.
my goodness, yeah. And I played a bit of Squad recently as well, and that's even worse by design.
Yeah.
Squad is horrible to actually play. As well, like, one of the
Mhm.
things, it's like I can completely see why they've done it like that, because it's not about the individual player.
Mhm.
um, I think it'd be interesting to talk about Scott at some point, but that's another time.
Yeah, we
Um,
could do it
but
for sure.
but it's just like I find it quite frustrating actually to just like physically play the game. It's like I was talking to some friends about it, and I was like, Squad is like those dreams you get where someone's chasing you and you're trying to run, but you just like you're not going anywhere. That's what
Yeah.
playing Squad is like. That's what the movement in Squad feels like. You're trying to run away from someone, but like your guy can't hardly move. You're like trying to like get some speed up, and you're getting shot at. Oh my god, it's horrible. And then you can only run for a little bit, and it feels so slow because the maps are so big, and you're kind of running at a realistic speed, which most games don't have either. Because I mean, even in DayZ, I think if you everything looks like it's realistic, right? But then if you actually measure the characters like run speed or something, it's like as fast as kind of a medium pedaling bike or whatever. Just because otherwise the game just feels awful. But like if you actually were
Yeah.
doing it in real life, you didn't nowhere be going that quickly at all. Whereas Squad's kind of like quite stringent on that because it tries to reduce the effectiveness of individual players on purpose
Mm.
to reinforce the command structure and the teamwork in element. So it's quite an interesting concept in that sense.
It's
But
interesting.
yeah, I found as like an individual player, I found it quite frustrating at times to to do, and it's weird coming from Tarkov 2. It's such a weird game coming from Tarkov because like obviously none of the guns are modded. You're just like you're just given an AK-74M or whatever it is, and that's it. And it's just it feels really odd running like naked guns the whole time. Like you realize how kind of full on like commando you get in Tarkov, where you've got like all
Yeah.
the gear and like it's very much like I don't know, like I think after playing it for so long, like you kind of almost forget the RPG element of it and realize that you do actually become this like incredible tank with ridiculous kit that no real military person would ever be able to run, and it's also kind of unnecessary. But the game works in that way to give you progression, so that you have a gun with like all of the baubles hanging off it and all of that stuff. So it's just it was funny. It was funny going back to something that was like a lot more standard. But yeah. I hope they don't go fully on that way with Inertia. I think they need to stop the AD-AD thing, but I don't think they need to take it into some like crazy mode. You could probably, because like CS has a little bit of inertia, right? And like you could
Yeah.
probably take it to that
That
kind
would
of level,
be
and it would probably be
yeah.
okay. Because CS
I
has
feel
more
like
inertia than COD, I think.
I feel like
And
they could
I
just
feel like
copy
that's okay.
paste CS:GO inertia and it would be totally fine.
I think so. That's kind of like where I would probably want it to be.
Like maybe even a little bit looser than CS:GO. Like,
Yeah, possibly.
but it just I'm excited for that change.
Yeah,
Big time.
exactly. Because the thing is,
Trust me, I jiggle peek, I corner peek,
you
you
have
know
to,
what I mean?
you
You have to. I
yeah.
mean, yeah. So
But it's like they have it already, right? If you're super overweight and you try to sprint, your guy has to like charge up to actually get to full
yeah,
speed, which I like.
and
It's
they
cool. I
also
like that.
have there's like I don't know what it is, but so like by default, your sprint key is like hold shift, is it? Or is it
Yeah, hold shift.
toggle?
Well, I think
And then like
it's kind of toggle. I think. Well, I've got mine on toggle. I can't remember what the default keys are. It's so long ago.
yeah, but it's like it's set up to where whenever you let go of sprint, you do like a power slide by
Yeah,
default. You know what I mean? And there's
yeah,
like a way to like undo that so that way you can not constantly power slide
yeah.
it, so I don't know if that's if they're gonna like tackle that. They want it to be like where you can't just come out of a sprint. I don't know.
Yeah, because I actually that's a funny one because I do remember the figuring out kind of like I do it automatically without really thinking about it because the way I always get out of that is by strafing. And so
Oh, interesting.
I do a little strafe every time I come to a stop, just automatically. But you can just tap the button again; it doesn't happen. Um,
Yeah.
which I realized afterwards, but it's just like not what I do. I tend to come out of it by like
Okay,
doing a
I
little
see.
strafe and it stops. But yeah, and that actually is like the one surefire way to tell whether it's a scav or not normally, because the scavs
When
all
they're
do that power
sprinting.
slide when they stop.
Oh, okay. Now I know what I gotta
And
do to be an actor.
the players don't do that almost never. It's only by accident.
Okay,
And so
interesting.
if you hear it twice, definitely an AI. Because it's hard now. It's much harder to figure out, especially if you're just listening. Because it used
Uh-huh.
to be really, really obvious because it was just, consistent, steady footsteps, which never change in rhythm. There's no change in direction. And it was really, really obvious. But now it's like with them sprinting and stopping and stuff, it was like trying to find a new tell. The power slide is the way. It's the tell. It's the tell.
Waver in your chat said he's gonna start power sliding everywhere now.
Yeah. Just to kind of freak people out.
Yeah.
Just turn back the other way and just yeah. It's also the scavs stood still and doing the spin, the
Yeah,
turn
they'll do
sound.
the hard spin,
That's
yeah.
the other one as well because players
Yeah.
typically don't do that either. Normally, you do the the rat walk on minimum speed, and then you like walk and then turn and then stop. Anyway,
Have you noticed that your stamina drains when you're slow walking, crouched?
I haven't. I haven't. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, and
Sometimes, yeah.
I can't. Maybe it's a weight thing. I can't figure out when it exactly happens. I've not done like
I'm
a
not sure.
great deal of testing on it yet. So
Did we talk about this last time?
I think we
We
did.
might have
We
talked
mentioned it.
about
We touched on it. I
okay.
touched on it. I think saying that I noticed it once, tried to test it, and then it didn't happen. So I was slightly confused as to whether it does or not. But I don't know. But I think in terms of their list, I think that's everything. I think that was all from Tarkov stuff. Started working on sites and optics overhaul, which they said as well, which should be quite nice. Because some stuff just is really broken. Just like the effect around the outside of the scope on certain scopes, eye cups, that kind of thing, that just doesn't really work, which is quite cool. So I'm interested to see what they do with that. And maybe, hopefully, there's something to do with zeroing in there. That would be really good. I would really like that. Even just, there's so many different things that they could fix, and zeroing is probably one of the biggest like milsimi problems with the game, in that like it's okay to a point, and then but in certain situations it's just like completely broken, and there's nothing you can do about it, because you can't go and zero your own weapons, you can't go and test it properly because the shooting range isn't long enough, and because it's set for like one particular bullet, it just doesn't work. Like you need to either be able to like set the default bullet somewhere in the in the calibration of the gun, or you need to be able to go and do your own zeroing so that you can go and tweak it yourself and test it, and either in raid or out of raid or something like that. I hope they fix that. I really hope they fix that, because it's very annoying. It's very annoying, especially
Tough
for
too,
like the
because
SMGs.
what if you load 2 different rounds, like a US round and a, BS round,
Yeah, well then
like a
that's your
subsonic
fault.
round and a
Then that's your fault.
well, yeah, but how are they gonna, like, account for that? Because the current system doesn't really account for that. Will they be able to account for that? Or are they just gonna I don't know
Well,
how to
whether they either kind of like, I can think of two ways that they could do it, right? You could either say, I would like to calibrate my zeroing for this round, and then you give it, like you tell it a round for that particular
Mhm.
gun, and then it does it. And then if you load a different round in it, well then that's on you. Or they make zeroing much more freestyle and allow you to just do what you want. And maybe
Like, if
you
you could
can
go
have
in the
some zeroing
shooting
presets.
range,
Yeah, you could go on the
yeah,
shooting
and,
range
like,
of some
set it
kind,
up,
and you can set it
right.
up yourself. Or maybe you have some presets, like you set it up once, twice. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, if you could just use the default system if you want to, if it doesn't bother you too much, because it's only certain guns and certain niche situations that it actually matters that much. Like weapons like the SVD doesn't really matter too much, because all the bullets are kind of the same. I know they go different speeds, but it's not that bad. It's like LPS versus SMB is not really going to be that big of a deal. Um, and even for like AKs as well, like obviously the subsonic rounds is going to be you're going to need something completely different. But like PS and BP kind of go similar speeds. The real problem is things like the MP5 SD, where you've got 7N1 in there, or um, you know PSO, and those go at like dramatically different velocities. It's insane how different they are. And so like that I actually didn't. I think I touched on this before as well, but like, I didn't understand why my bullets were going high with 7M1 with the MP5. No, it's because I was using 50 meters zeroed red dots with extreme bullet velocity, with zeroing connected to the PSO bullet, and so it
Mm,
meant that the arc that it was expecting never happened. And so when I fired,
interesting.
it went way above the target instead.
Yeah,
So you get this big gap. So if you pick a red dot with a 25 meter zero, it's actually that difference is much less, and it goes much flatter because of that.
interesting.
So clearly, if you pick a 25 meter zero with the PSO and you shoot over 100 meters, you'll get a lot more drop. But that's kind of more what you expect. I think like players don't mind dealing with drop. I think that's okay, because people can, you sort of naturally aim above, right? You aim in front and above, and like you kind of do that automatically if you've been playing like milsimi type games for long enough. But to fire and have the round go above your sight is really counterintuitive, and it like screws with my
Yeah.
muscle memory completely. And so I stopped using it until I realized that all the little tiny little collimators like the Delta Point have a 25 meter zero, and then it kind of fixes it, which is quite nice. And given that we're off on a completely wild tangent here, I may as well just derail this train completely and talking about zeroing, which is something that is like really stupid, which I didn't actually realize. I can't believe I didn't realize this for a long time. But it's probably because I'm not like a real life guns person living in the UK, right? I can't get access to anything here, and it's just like never really been something that it's just culturally not something that we really do. Um, but anyway, I didn't realize that a zero actually is two zeros at the same time, which like it makes total sense. As soon as I saw it, I was like, duh, obviously. Because like when you zero for a particular range, right, it's like it arcs up to the target and then it arcs down again the other side. And so it's actually zeroed for 2 points. Both points will be on target. The first one as it comes out of the barrel, and then the second one as it comes up and back down again.
I see
The
what you're
second
saying.
point is
Yeah.
also on the right
Yeah.
line, because your trajectory, your ballistic trajectory is like an arc. And so
Mhm.
if you want to hit something in that line, there's actually two. So you can zero for like 50 meters and 300 meters, for example, or like 100 meters and 400 meters. together because you'll hit both those targets. Whereas the target in the middle of those, like 250, will actually be too high. Yeah, interestingly. So, but I didn't actually realize that for ages. I thought that was interesting. I mean, it's really obvious. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, yeah, it makes complete sense. But just never had any practical experience of it, so it never really crossed my mind. But that's not in the game, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Tangent ended.
Speaking of tangents, I found out the other day that the 9mm vector, its base muzzle velocity is like 550, which is, in my opinion, kind of significant compared to the other SMGs, because the other SMGs are around 300. Even the
So you
45 vector,
mean the base velocity with like what's the base ammo? Is it PSO again for the vector? I'm not actually sure.
I don't know what the default ammo is, but
But we're saying with the same round, it's like
like
200 more.
if you just buy the gun and no ammo is
Yeah,
loaded into it, it's like
yeah.
550, which
Interesting.
is like 100 and like 250 points higher than, like, almost double what like the MP5 is, or MP5 SD.
Well, the MP5 SD is unnaturally low by design, and so it's
Mhm.
kind of special. I'd be interested to see how different it is to like the MPX, the MP5, and a couple of the others like
So
that.
the MPX, the like fully meta M4 looking,
Well, the one with the 14-inch barrel.
yeah, is like still 300 and something. I
Is it
forget.
now? That's fascinating. Okay, that is
Yeah.
fascinating. I wonder why the vector's so high. That sounds kind of not right.
I thought the same, because the 45 is 300 something. Because I just
Hmm.
happened to notice it, because I remember I was playing Shoreline and I was just like, I'm gonna go Giga Chat, I'm gonna run a vector of 7 and 31s, and there's a scav, like, man, he had to been like 80 meters out. And I aimed right at his head and it went straight there. And I was kind of expecting to not one tap him,
Yeah.
but it was like perfect accuracy. And I was like, huh, I guess 7 and 1 was helping me out a lot. And then, yeah, I don't know. Because I swear the vector, you can just like, another time I was fighting a PMC, and again, I had to been like 80 meters away, maybe 100. And I just full autoed him. And it was like, it just, the bullets were definitely hitting him. Might have been hitting him in the leg. They might have been dropping a little bit, but I feel like that extra 250 is pretty significant on that gun.
I'll have to have a look at it. I mean, when I've used the vector, I've not used it with anything other than AP6
Uh-huh.
and 7N. So I've not used it with the lower rounds. And AP6 actually does have quite a high velocity anyway.
Oh, does it?
But
Okay.
it has felt very, very straight to me
Yeah, we'll have
when
to
I've
test it.
used it. Yeah, I mean, it's felt the vector when I've used the vector, it has felt amazing. Honestly, like the only reason why I've
Mhm.
stopped using it is because it costs like 75K to
Yeah,
fill a
it's pretty
drum mag
expensive.
with the best stuff. And if you're
Yeah.
not like AP6 is it's okay. It's all right.
Okay.
But if you meet someone with level 5 armor and you don't hit them in the head, you're gonna
Right.
die. Is kind of the problem.
Mhm.
Like it's very bad against that kind of armor.
Yeah.
Um, so you have to be quite confident that you're going to hit them in the head. Which, to be fair, with very little modding, you can get it to 26 recoil, and it is definitely feasible to shoot someone in the face with it. And I've done that a bit, but what's it now? 95K?
The gun? Yes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So it's still all right. Like it's,
I was
I've been playing around with M4s, and it's like they're more than that. You know,
more what? Recoil?
expensive.
Oh, expensive? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just because
Yeah.
even if you go and buy an ADAR and then buy some bits, like your M4 is probably going to get to 50 recoil for like 120, I was going to say 130 maybe, and that's like really pushing it.
Well, assuming you can get the ammo for a reasonable price, you do have a better,
I mean,
I guess a cheaper alternative than 7 and 31.
that's the thing. The beauty of the M4 platform is the MA55A1 just being so cost effective,
Yeah.
which is the good thing about it. But yeah, you have to mod the M4 a lot to make it useful, whereas the Vector is just like put
Up
the
it
muzzle
goes.
brake on, boom,
Yeah.
off you go. It's
Pretty
very good.
much.
It's very good.
I saw a landmark using it without the stock.
Oh,
you
what,
can
the one
actually
with the
use it
little
with
ring thing on it? It's just like
yeah.
you could attach it to some kind of rope.
Yeah. And it's just like it still looked busted with no stock. I was like, wow, that's insane.
I think without stock, it's still like only 45 recoil or something. I think
It's yeah, it's
I
I
can't
don't
remember.
know.
I looked at it once when I was like playing
Yeah.
around with the modding, and yeah, it wasn't very high. It really
Hmm.
wasn't very high. Um,
But like you said, the base recoil is so low, so you're only the percentage lost or gain is very minimal.
yeah,
It's
yeah. I'm not even sure. I'm not sure what the. I don't actually have Tarkov up. Otherwise, I'd check. But yeah, I don't know
mhm.
what the base recoil. If you like strip everything off and just have like the main block of the gun,
Mm.
what that would be. But I think it's got to be like 50 or 60 or something. It can't.
Yeah,
It
I
can't
was
be
even
any. It can't be
wager
any higher than
40.
that. Yeah, yeah.
You know?
But probably it probably is. It probably is honestly. Because your stock typically gives you what they like minus 30% roughly,
Somewhere around there, yeah.
something like that. So that sounds about right. Like 50, and then the stock's like 30%. That takes you down to 35, and then you put on the muzzle brake, which is like another 10% off the original, as we now know. So that's 50 times. That's another 5 points. So that takes you down to like 30. It sounds about right, but it's insane. I think it's great. I think it's great. I mean, it's the single reason why AP6 is bought out all the time, and why 7 and 31 is like 1,600 a shot now.
Well, I think that and a while ago they buffed AP6 pin, make
A
it more
little, yeah.
reliable against class 3,
Mm.
which means you can just go through most space shields.
Yeah, which was kind of the point, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's yeah, it's mental. 1,645 a shot, chat saying. Which so
Yeah.
you get 33 a 33 round mag of that.
I mean,
That
it's
is,
just yeah.
you know what though? Now that I'm kind of getting towards the end game, I'm probably just gonna start running it again.
I
Because
bought
why not?
about like 2 million worth of someone had like 100 or 1,000 listing. I was like, fuck it. I bought it. And
Yeah.
it's like 2 million reals. I was like, ooh, felt that one.
It's
So,
it's good. It's a good gun. It's a good gun. It's a good gun. Well, I think we were going to talk about something else, but I think maybe we just leave it till next time.
yeah.
The only other thing, so given we've got probably what like 5 minutes or something before like
Yeah, I was thinking
allotted
maybe
in for
you want to
this,
take questions from chat or like topics. Maybe chat wants to.
we could do, yeah. If anyone wants to put any questions in chat, then feel free. But in the meanwhile,
Hmm.
something that I was on watching the community podcast a little bit, and there was a couple of
Hmm.
random questions that came up at the end, um, which was kind of like they'd asked BSG some direct questions and got some answers from Nikita about a few random things, which I thought was quite interesting. So they asked them like, how much does coronavirus had an impact on the business? And they said like some, but it's not a critical amount. But the next one, they asked what new guns were coming next, and I hadn't actually seen this elsewhere. Maybe I've just been blind. But they said the AEK 971 and the Scar H Scar L are coming.
The AK, what was that?
AEK 971.
Oh, I'm not. I think that was like a battlefield gun.
I think yeah, it's like
AEK.
another AK hybrid. I can't
Nice.
remember which country it is. I don't think it's. I don't think it's. It's not like a proper AK. I can't remember. It's someone else's. I can't remember who it is though.
Um.
I'm someone who's like a proper gun person will have to tell me.
Yeah, I'm looking
Will have
up
to tell me in chat.
the
Um,
wiki.
yeah, but Scar H Scar L would be cool.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that would be quite cool.
Looks like it's just a multi-caliber
Oh, it is
AK.
Russian. Okay, it is Russian. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited for the Scar. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Especially if they have the variant like the was it 556 and then the 762
Exactly. So they're putting
or
them
the
both in.
308. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
they're putting them both in. So that'd be neat because then there's like another 308 variant that's more like an assault rifle, which is
I really
exciting.
want the AN-94. You know
That
about
would
that
be
gun?
that would be awesome.
I
I
just
remember,
love that
yeah,
design.
I remember having a great time with that in Battlefield Bad Company 2. That's where I
Mhm.
used that gun a lot, and it was very very good. Chad saying this will be the first high fire rate AK in the game, 900 RPM is the AEK.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Oh, yeah, it is 900. Wow. That could be a big game changer, especially if it uses the, Agonic or the BS.
That
It
would
would
be pretty
probably
cool.
shove the RPK, down.
Yeah, because the RPK is just kind of like everyone just uses it all the time for 505, don't they?
Yeah.
How much? So chat says, how much bigger do you think they'll make factory? I don't. I don't know. I don't think they'll make it that much bigger. I reckon it'll probably be maybe twice the size and maybe 3 times the size, like the same again 3 times. But I don't think it'll be. I don't think it'll be in that region. I think it'll be like double. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the only thing I could see. I can't
Unless,
imagine they
yeah,
would make
I
it.
don't
I
know.
don't know. That's tough. Because like you said, they could make it like, you know, customs is like surrounding factory, but it's all like
Mm,
gated off, and then you got like this outside area, and you rush into
yeah,
factory through the gates. I don't know.
I suppose it could end up being. Yeah, it could end up being quite a lot bigger if they do that, which we were talking about at the start, and add that extra area around the outside. Could end up being like quite decent size if
Because
you have to enter into factory.
otherwise, the only thing I could see them doing is like more tunnels, and yeah, I mean that's about it. Maybe you could get on the roof top of the building or something. I don't know, and shoot
Yeah,
down. I don't know.
yeah, exactly. Because like I think there's quite a lot above in factory, so maybe it's going to have multiple floors. You can
Yeah,
like
that's
climb up or something.
isn't labs entrance going to be through factory? Yeah, that's what they were saying.
Yeah, we just weren't sure exactly how that was going to work and whether there's going to
Hmm.
be because I don't think touched on this before, but I don't think like labs is not anywhere near factory, so I think it would be some kind of like event to do it. It'll be some kind of transport or something. Um, what else do they say? Okay, so yeah, BSG on esports and private servers. Apparently, they didn't give anything away. They just said send any suggestions if you have events, whatever. Just send it to info battle state. Um, can you go into water? Probably not, but maybe in the far future. Maps for remodeling factory, which we know about. Um, what's their policy on glitches? You got to read the Tarkov terms of service. Hard abuse is not allowed, but it's in beta, so there's going to be no penalties. So basically, not going to do anything. Um, and then they're going to. The only other interesting one I think was that they wanted to bring in a lock system in the inventory so that you can't accidentally delete your own items.
Huh.
So you can like lock stuff in place. So you can't accidentally delete your thick case,
That's kind of nice.
which is kind of nice. So I
Yeah,
guess that's on the list.
that's a
But
good quality of life. Yeah,
yeah, but I think the new guns is the cool one for that. I think
for
it's good.
sure.
I think
So
it's good.
Nikita slash BSG actually made appearance on the podcast, or they?
Did make an appearance, but
Oh, they
Sneaky
had like a
said
Q
that
and A.
yeah, he had sent him some questions that
Okay,
people. I
I
think I'm
see.
not sure where he'd sourced the questions from. I think he might have got them on Twitter or something, and asked people, what would you ask? And then he got 10 questions that he asked Nikita and got some short answers. But it was all very very short stuff. But the only thing that I had not heard before was the new guns. I didn't know that those two were coming next. So
Gotcha.
I thought that was interesting. I
Yeah,
did think that was interesting.
excellent reporting, GigaBeef.
I'll make it yet.
Yeah, I woke up at like 12 noon early, and I opened up the podcast VOD. I think it just ended, and I was skimming through. I didn't see Nikita's stuff, and I was like, "Well, I'm so sorry, Gigabeef." I told you that. I told you I wasn't gonna be able to make it.
It's all good. It's
uh,
all good. It was interesting anyway. It was interesting
Good.
anyway. Had some good people on it, so it's not no hardship. It's no hardship. Cool. So I think I guess we did kind of want to talk about the new player experience, but I think we're going to talk. We should talk about that next time. Maybe we'll make it into
Yeah,
more of like a full length thing because there's just enough to talk about continuing changes and whatnot in this one. So we'll leave that to next time.
for sure. Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, that about wraps up the show. I think do another episode Friday, and maybe we'll have a guest. I don't know. I have to dig into that.
Yeah, we'll dig into that. We'll have a think about it, see who's appropriate, contact a few people, and see if we can get someone on.
Cool. All right, guys.
Cool.
Have a great evening.
All right. See you, everyone.